I'd like to talk about my leadership snapshot. I took the 360 leadership survey as well as the Gregoric assessment, and I'd like to talk about the 360 leadership survey first. I had a few people fill this out, myself including. Principal and a fellow teacher took the survey. Some of the results: my principal gave it all fours, which wasn't very helpful. I want someone to be honest with me, tell me exactly how I'm doing as a person, as a teacher. The survey and a leader. The survey my colleague and I took was much more telling. I was honest with myself as well as my colleague. It was a fellow teacher in my social studies department. It seems that I was more critical on myself than my colleague, and I think that quite often, even with my students, I find that they're often more critical on themselves, and that was the same with me. I was a little bit more critical on myself than my colleague. So the categories, total scores, I'm in the blue and my colleague was in the red. As you can see, self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, pretty close, not too far off. But then here on the right-hand side, we have interpersonal relationships, communication skills, managing conflict, and there was some much larger differences over here on this side. I did not rate myself nearly as high as my colleague in category communication skills and managing conflict. And I think that is because, once again, I think I look upon myself in a more harsh light than my colleague, especially with communication skills. I think that is something that I can always improve upon. The Gregoric assessment, upon taking the style delineator, I came up with the following score. So let's take a look at the score. All right, so we have 4 different categories. Concrete sequential scored 30, abstract sequential 17, abstract random 17, and then my highest category would be concrete random 35. I am a concrete random, but I also share many qualities with concrete sequential. My 2 lower scores were abstract sequential and abstract random. So when we go to the chart over here, we can see that in this upper quadrant, I am, the score I scored the most was concrete random, and then we have over here concrete sequential. So the 2 lower scores down here would be abstract random and abstract sequential. So when you take a look at the whole picture here, it seems I'm much more concrete to begin with than abstract, and that's, I would say, one of my strengths. One of my weaknesses would be dealing with a lot of the issues that come with these numbers right here. Now, using the Gregoric leadership roles for concrete sequential, the Gregoric is a learning style, but I think you can apply it to leadership styles. And so I took a few minutes and thought about each one of these and thought about applying it to, I'm a history teacher, so some historic person in time, and came up with these, the following. Concrete sequential, concrete world of the physical senses, instinctive, deliberate, products, refinement, duplication, all items of concrete sequential. And I think a good leader in concrete sequential is George Patton from World War II. I think he fits in this category to the T.
All this stuff you've heard about America not wanting to fight, wanting to stay out of the war, is a lot of horse dung. Americans traditionally love to fight. All real Americans love the sting of battle. When you were kids, you all admired the champion marble shooter, the fastest runner, big league ball players, the toughest boxers. Americans love a winner and will not tolerate a loser. Americans play to win all the time. I wouldn't give a hoot in hell for a man who lost and laughed. That's why Americans have never lost and will never lose a war, because the very thought of losing is hateful to Americans.
Abstract sequential, abstract world of intellect, vicarious, intellectual, analytical, synthesis, theories, models, and a good leader there, I think, is Albert Einstein.
Albert Einstein was born in Germany into a middle-class Jewish family. Einstein claimed that one of the most important influences in igniting his love for science and mathematics was a young medical student named Max Talmud. Talmud became an informal tutor, introducing a teenage Einstein to higher mathematics and philosophy. Einstein would eventually enter the Swiss Federal Polytechnic School in Zurich, where he trained as a teacher. Unable to find a teaching position, Einstein was eventually offered a job as a Swiss patent clerk. Einstein married a former physics classmate in 1903, and 1905 became known as Einstein's miracle year. He published 4 papers on the subjects of photoelectrics, Brownian motion, special relativity, and the equivalence of matter and energy. Each of these papers altered the course of modern...
Alright, looking at abstract random, some of the qualities from abstract random: abstract world, feelings, emotion, perceptive, holistic, imaginative, refinement, relationships. And the leader that I chose from this category is Mohandas Gandhi. I think he is a good person from that role.
Gandhi.
100,000 Englishmen simply cannot control 350 million Indians if those Indians refuse to cooperate.
The story of one man whose voice spoke out for millions.
To gain independence, we must prove worthy of it.
From his humble beginnings
You're an ambitious man, Mr. Gandhi. I hope not.
to his ultimate triumph, he was the conscience of all mankind.
Where there's injustice, I've always believed.
Role. Now, concrete random. Concrete world is activity viewed through insight, intuitive, impulsive, independent, inventive, futuristic, change, and the leader that I chose for that was Abraham Lincoln. We just saw that movie Abraham Lincoln a few weeks ago, and I think that especially these inventive, futuristic change is something that qualities that he embodies.
Lincoln won the election, but his views on slavery did not make him a welcome leader in the South. By his inauguration in March 1861, 7 Southern states had seceded from the Union. On April 12, 1861, the Confederacy fired on Fort Sumter and began America's most deadly war. At first, Lincoln made the war about maintaining the Union so as not to offend the loyal slave states. But eventually, he shifted the cause to abolishing slavery, and on January 1, 1863, Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation. Slavery was over. Lincoln easily won the election in 1864, and it would only be a few more months before Confederate General Robert E. Lee would surrender. With the war over, Lincoln could look forward to better times.
Now, some of the questions from our project: how will you articulate an area of focus for leadership growth and development? I'm going to use the 360 to increase my communication and managing conflict, communication skills and managing conflict. Use Gregoric to work on my abstract and sequential random skills. So I know that those are potential weak areas for me, and I know those are things that I could build upon. How will you engage others in supporting your personal leadership growth and development? Work with my social studies team on the above skills, try to become more of a teacher leader in my school. This whole style of presenting right here is something new to me. It's called flipping the classroom, and it is something that I'm using with my AP kids right now, where I give them work to take home. And I talked to the principal about this recently, and now he wants me to present this to the school. So that is one way that I think that I can become more of a teacher leader in the school and continue my role using some of these skills that we've been talking about. So thank you. This has been interesting, and I hope this uploads pretty good.